Okay, everybody, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about how to create one of these digital portrait paintings. Just a quick review. I'll show you some colored pencil technique a little more extensively, but just a quick review on how to create this. Here's several versions taken from a photograph that has a strong raking light on one side. That's usually very helpful for this process. And this is one I created of myself recently. I don't know why I picked this picture. It kind of looks like the face I make after I spill paint in the studio, like, oops, there I go again. So I thought it was pretty representational. But you can see here, here's the original photograph turned into a posterized form filter. So I took a photograph of myself, I fed it into the Seashore program, which is kind of like a knockoff of Photoshop, and I hit posterize and I dialed it into about number 4 or 5 is usually a good number. And you can see I changed my colors in this, so I really just wanted to get the pattern transferred onto my paper, and I'll show you how to do that. You will basically, the idea is put this piece, let's see if I got those lined up. Yeah, here we go. So this is your transfer paper. This goes face down on your final paper. Tape it down, and then tape this one on top. And you're ready to go. And the idea is that you don't want any of this stuff to move around while you're tracing it. A couple of challenges you might run into along the way are how to draw things. So, you know, if you look at this, this is an eye. I've traced it over here, but you might be tempted to draw in like the eyelashes and things like that, but that's really not what we're looking for. We're looking for the shape that you do see in between each color, and whether it looks like an eye or not is irrelevant. When you ultimately get finished, it will, and that's what that looks like traced, which really doesn't look much like an eye. So you want to be true to your image. Some of this stuff up in the hair, you can see how complicated that is. I've simplified it a little bit. And this is really a roadmap for where you're going to color. And getting the hair exactly right is not critical, right? It's hair. Every hair doesn't have to be in the same place, since it's not from every second to second. I made my own transfer paper here by just scribbling pencil on the back of this in different directions and smearing it around. So if you don't have that transfer paper and you want to get an image onto a piece of paper, that's a good way to go about it. Here you can see I'm simplifying the hair a little bit more and not drawing every strand of hair, but I'm drawing the large separations between the colors. And I'm drawing this with a ballpoint pen because it comes out a little better. And down here you can see of your color copies, they're a little more complicated. You have 2 color copies and 1 black and white. And the black and white is a little simpler in its shapes. You can see this shape right here, for example, is one gray shape. But if you look up here, it's got some green and dark gray and blue and stuff in it here. So the simplest shape image to trace would be the black and white one. But if you want to get a little more complex, you can put these other subtleties of colors in there. Okay, let's get started. Here I am, ta-da! I have I've got my final paper. I put my transfer paper on there, face down. If you put it this way, you're going to have the image on the back of there. So make sure it's transferring down onto your final paper. And then you just go at it and trace it. And I just kind of do this very slowly. I'm not going to do the whole thing. You can see I started part of it so that I could just demonstrate quickly. But I do trace these things, and I do try and just find what there's a lot of little bumps and stuff. So I'm kind of editing a little bit as I go, but just simplifying. And then once you get that on there, you might want to take a look after you've done a few marks just to make sure they're transferring. So that looks like it's doing a good job. I'm going to take these things off. I didn't transfer the whole image, which is fine. I'll just show you how to do some of the colored pencil and marker techniques on this. So ultimately, I like to start with the black. And I've got these colored pencils here I'm going to be working with. And I've got this set of markers here that I'm going to be working with. So this is what the colors of the markers are. So I like to start with the black. I have an ivory black here in colored pencil, so I could do it with the colored pencil, or I could jump into it with this black Sharpie. You can use markers and put colored pencils on top of markers, but I think I'm going to use the Sharpie just because it's really black. And you want to do your black stuff first. So I'm going to start just filling this in. I'm outlining everything that's going to be painted black. Painted, I mean colored. And just taking my time with this. Obviously with the marker you can't undo it, so you want to make sure you're going slow enough that you have full control. That's really the idea. That's kind of the pace I tell people to work at. You know, there's no goal in getting it done in any time limit, but you really want to be working at a pace where you feel like you're hitting the mark on these edges, like you're not going so fast that you're saying oops a lot. And despite drawing for 45 years now, I still go about this fast, just to make sure. So I'm just going to do this eye area. And you know, I'm doing this in black, and the image is black, but these are expressive portraits, so you can get creative if you like. In the other one here, the other one, where is that picture? So I've got you know, this transitioning up into a light blue instead of being all solid black. I'll show you that in a second, but I'll show you how to get that effect. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill this in up to about here and then switch into the colored pencils. But if you were to carry on with this, you would of course finish this. You would get all the black in there, and I encourage people to start with the black because it's usually gives you your eyes looking back at you when you do the black. You can kind of see the main forms in the project. So I'm going to just put this in there. Oops. Before you start, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. You can really lighten these lines, right? You really don't need them so dark. So if you want to lighten all this stuff a little bit, you've got a vinyl eraser if you've got one of my kits, and that works really well. Or you've got this kneaded eraser, which is the greatest erasing tool in the world. I just love this thing. And this you can just kind of rub over things, and it can soften things very easily. Just press it, and you really just want to be able to see where the lines are very faintly, so that they're not coming through your markers if you have some lighter areas or your colored pencils. I'm just going to lighten the whole thing a little bit, and I think I'm pretty much ready to shift. This is all would be black up here, so let's just pretend I got a lot of that colored. There we go, going up into that zone. And I like to color this stuff thoroughly, right? If there's any little white spots, I like to pick them up. And I'm going to shift now into my next color. I'm going to try and make this color. And I don't really have it in my 10 set of colored pencils, but I'm going to mix colors. So if you have Prismacolor, I think of as the very best colored pencil quality wise. You can buy them in packs of up to 144, I believe. So they have all the different colors, or you can buy a 12 pack and mix the colors. I'm going to put this in as a lighter sort of yellow or ochre. What do you call that? Kind of a sienna. They call that golden brown. And I'm going to just lightly put that in because I want to top coat it with a darker color. And I'm going to use this red and see how that's going to look. It's kind of bright red, which I kind of like. So I'm going to stick with that. The key here, the thing to keep in mind, is that this color has to be the same value as this color. And by that I mean, you know, the same amount of darkness or lightness. So this brown here, if you were to take a photograph in black and white, you would see that as a certain type of gray, right? And so I'm trying to match the intensity of that darkness or lightness with my color. I could be doing this in green or purple or any other color, or blues. And as long as I hit the same value, the same amount of darkness or lightness in that color, it's still going to work on my face. Because really, you're going from light to dark, right? And so if this was light green to dark green or light blue to dark orange, it's still going to show the form and the light on there. It's just doing it with different colors. And so I'm kind of liking that. I'm pushing down pretty hard to kind of rub and get that mixed together. And I like that. So I'm going to move on to my next color. Looks like I got a little black blip in here I should get. And I'm going to create this kind of color. Now, I don't really care for that color. It doesn't have a lot of character. So I'm going to make it kind of a combination of green and purple, a gray made out of that, which should give it a little bit more of an interesting look. I think I'll start with the green. So this is a little bit darker color than this one, and it looks like it is actually going to be a little darker, even just with the green. Put that in there, another little piece of it down here. And although I'm doing one little piece here and then jumping to another color for demonstration purposes, you should definitely try and do everything that is this color first. Just like you do all the black, complete all the black, and then jump into the next color. Excuse me. And I'm not really sure if it's easier to start with the darker colors or the lighter ones. I think I tend to start with the lighter ones, because if those are too dark, they're hard, you know. Anyway, I don't even know why I start with the lighter ones. It may be a little easier, but I've started with the darker ones here. And I really don't think it matters as long as you're paying close attention to what you're doing. Put a little bit of this green over here. And this green here. And I'm going to put a purple on top of that. That may not sound very intuitive, but you know, it's going to cancel some of that brassy color of the green. That's a little too Christmas tree green for my taste. And I'd like it to be a little more gray. So if I take my purple, I'm going to go on top of it, and it should gray it out a little bit. You can see that's getting a little grayer. I like that. And it kind of matches the values that these have, right? This is just a little darker than that, I think. Kind of hard to see, actually, isn't it? I mean, these are awfully close. So I would neutralize these, they call it. When you mix one sort of a warm color on top of a cool color, they call it neutralizing, right? They neutralize each other because they're complements. So I'm kind of liking that. Cool. But as I examine this, I'm thinking this gray is actually the red is actually the darker color, and this one's the lighter one. So I wonder what happened if I put a little pink on this. It's getting darker. I'm going to try something else. I'm gonna put a little brown on top of my red. There we go. I like that. And then that one feels ever so slightly darker than the green one. And I really like layering them, because then you know, by the second or third layer, you can get rid of all the little white spots. So that's cool. I like that color. And try not to, you know, think about your color in terms of the name of the color, right? This has got some red, some golden brown, some other browns in there. So I wouldn't say, if somebody asked me, what color is that? It's very complicated, right? It's got lots of things in there. So I like that. I'm liking this. I think I'm going to put this yellow on top of the green because I don't like how bumpy it is, right? And so I want to get rid of that texture. And ultimately, you kind of got to grind these out if you're going to get rid of that texture. So, ooh, that is a wonderfully weird color, so I like it. I did a little different green in the other one. But you can kind of see this will be now a different interpretation of this, right? This is the one I did at first. Now here I'm going at it, putting all different colors in here, and they're all perfectly valid, and they will both have a sense of form and light because I'm paying attention to how dark these are and how light they are. But they will have totally different moods, I would imagine. That is, you know, what happens when you change color harmonies and things. So that was looking good. I'm going to jump in here and try and make this pink now. And I'm going to do that with just putting this ever so lightly in there. The white colored pencil is missing from my set here, but... And I'm going to lightly put that in there, and I like that. And this would be this dark color, so I won't do that. I'm going to come over here and put this in. And you can see I'm not like drawing a dark outline around this with a colored pencil first. I'm really just trying to fill the shape in with the value, with the color. When you draw those lines, it sort of starts to break up the face in a funny kind of way. Okay, so I'm liking this. If I had my white colored pencil right now, I would grind it on this and grind it on here. I don't know where it is, but that's definitely would work. And let's see if the yellow will do it. Oh yeah, I'm glad I don't have the white. The yellow's way better. And to me, that's a super cool color. Much more interesting than that one, right? I like that color. So I would definitely keep rolling with that. And kind of making my way around my face. Let's see here. That's looking pretty good. And what else? If you want, and you're wanting to get a little variety in your blends or in these dark areas, you can do other things to add a little sparkle to things. Put a little bit of shocker in there. So for example, you know, these are my glasses, so I'm gonna take a little bit of this blue, and there are some things going on in the glasses, but they didn't really transfer over here, but I like that. It just gives a little bit of variety there, right? And when you finish this whole thing, and you've got all the color in there, you may want to look at it again and say, well, what do I go over? You know, is there something you want to make show up a little bit more? I even put a little lines in some of these areas to, you know, with color, just to sort of define the whole shape. So it doesn't necessarily have to stay within those boundaries once you kind of figure out what you're doing. Although you could call it quits as soon as you fill everything in. It's up to you. But I like to mess around with it a little bit. Throw a little green into this purple. And of course I'm looking at this picture going, what else can I mess around with? Let me throw a little bit of this in here. So mix it up a little bit, although don't mix it up between shapes. This color right here should be that color everywhere, right? This color right here should be that color everywhere you see it. And then once you get that put into place, then you can mess around and start doing some other things that maybe change the individual shapes a little bit and give them a little more interest. So like this, I'm going to make one side of this a little greener and blend it over, right? So there's some unusual things you can do, and just have fun. Trust your instincts on the colors. Know that if you mess up, so to speak, you can always kind of go back at it. This thing's wonderful for lifting out, you know, ever so lightly without smearing it. So maybe I don't like that brown that I did on there, and I want to get it out there without smearing that all over. This is one way to go at it, right? And that comes almost off. And you could just rub it in a little bit more, and then I could try a whole different set of colors up here. Let me see what happens if I put the purple on top of this brown, how that looks. Ooh, that's pretty too. I dare say that's even prettier. So don't be afraid to experiment, mix your colors. You can always take it back to the white just about. And if that's not the color you like and you give up on it, well, then grab your really strong marker, or I'm sorry, your really strong eraser, and just get rid of it. And you can start over. Okay, your background, choose anything you want. I just took my markers and drew lines across and then just started dropping in pieces of color. But you're welcome to go at this in any way you like. Wishing you the best of luck. And if you need to, come see me at my studio. Studio Pick, 4356 Atlantic Avenue. Good luck, you guys. Take care.